All right.
So, let us do what we normally do, and let's start the show like we normally start the show, shall we? Shall we?
Yeah?
All right. Hi there, and welcome to Gray Muzzle Geekery for the week of May 4th, 2020, episode 50! That's 50. That's 50. 50 episodes. Dusty White? Mm-hmm. May the 4th be with you.
Yeah, exactly.
And also with you,
Yeah,
for
and
you
with-
Catholics. I'm Dusty Red, and with me as always.
I'm Dusty White.
And let's start the show with this month's Geek Battle Cries. This month's Geek Battle Cry of thank yous and shoutouts go first to our Patreon supporters: Bada, Chad, Chris, Clay, Delaron, DM Ben, Donna, Matt, Orion, Redcoat, Ryan, Silver Godamon, and Travis.
If you love our logo as much as we do, be sure to visit the To Improve Your Day page on Facebook to see more of Travis's work.
If our intro gets stuck in your head as it does ours, be sure to check out the musician Pepper Coyote on Spotify, or you could purchase his work directly from his Bandcamp page.
Also, be sure to check out our greater family of geekery.
If you've enjoyed some of our commissioned art pieces, be sure to check out Quack Quack Honk Designs at www.quackquackhonk.com.
For more geek news, be sure to listen in every Thursday at the Geek Awakens podcast, hosted by Mitch Ladd.
If you enjoy 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, be sure to join DM and friend of the show, Pat Rickert, every Monday night for Loaded Dice Adventures on Twitch.
If you have the need for plastic-dipped weapons for a variety of cosplay or live-action role-playing game needs, be sure to check out the Forge of Wrath page on Facebook.
And finally, if you have miniatures that need painting and want to be the envy of all your friends, who better than our friends at Night Owl Painting? Be sure to check out the Night Owl Painting page, and that's Night with a K, on Facebook. And again, thank you to all of our supporters and our friends of the show and everybody else who has done a great and wonderful services for us, I guess.
Yeah.
Let this show go. And now let's properly get into this week's news. News.
So a demon and an angel are also both social distancing. Well, that is according to writer Neil Gaiman. He paints a picture of the two catching up in a cute mini episode called Good Omens Lockdown. The video short finds the fan favorite celestial pair swapping stories from their respective quarantines. When good old COVID-19 is spreading enough fear and dread by itself, Crowley feels bummed and almost replaced. Meanwhile, Aziraphale is baking up a storm, while of course recognizing all rules of social distancing. Tennant and Sheen remain an amazing pair in this little interlude of their reunion. The lockdown video comes as a gift as Good Omens the novel turns 30 in May. Crowley in Crowley fashion does try to break the rules, but ends up just setting an alarm for the end of July. Figured we started the episode one with
the whole show.
Our Good Omens. Might
And
as well
so
bring it
50th, we're going. So you're saying this is the last one we're doing?
No.
I didn't think so. You can't get rid of me that easy.
Uh-huh.
I'm like herpes, baby. I pop up when you least expect it.
But it was a very cute little interlude for the characters of how they may or may not react to something like, you know, an apocalypse sign of a pandemic.
The lamest apocalypse ever to grace humanity. I mean, it's funny to have those characters to have one feel replaced and the other obviously obeying every rule sit in place. Like,
correct.
It's easy when you don't need to eat or poop or anything else. You don't need toilet paper because your angel's soft. Oh. No?
No.
No, I'm fired.
Nah.
All right.
Yeah.
So, less than a week after Anthrocon organizers said that they still hope to hold their annual convention in Pittsburgh this summer, the group announced that Anthrocon 2020 has been officially canceled. Wah, wah. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 crisis, for which there was no timely end in sight, We have been forced to make the sad decision to cancel Anthrocon 2020, a letter on the Anthrocon website said on Monday, April 27th. The gathering, described on its own website as the world's largest anthropomorphic convention, which caters to the furry fandom, or devotees of animals or objects given human characteristics, had been slated to be held from July 2nd through July 5th. Organizers said hotels and some events are automatically issuing refunds. People who purchase memberships for the actual convention can request a refund online, or, like Dusty and myself, will simply defer our memberships for the 2021 convention. So, yeah, I assume that makes things a little bit difficult because we kind of had a conversation of, obviously, the health crisis is one thing. Like, we're fortunate enough to not be sick and to not have to deal with that. But the quarantine itself or the lockdown itself, the hardest part seems to be everything we were looking forward to doing this summer is being shut down. Is that what seems to be making it even harder? Because I work. I mean, we both work, but we both work in the mentality of we get through Monday through Friday, so then we could go do what we actually like to do on the weekends. Mm-hmm. That's taken away. What now? What?
I mean, obviously, not having the convention is the smart and intelligent thing to do. However,
let's not get political. I'm kidding.
However, it is really sad to know that even if the quarantine was lifted tomorrow, it still would not be necessarily very safe to have that big of a convention, have that many people in a spot. It is just...
if I'm not mistaken, Anthrocon's numbers are floating above 10,000 or close to 10,000. Midwest Fur Festival being the largest at like 11 or 12,000 attendees. But anything over 1,000,
right,
you're pushing your luck.
Well, even just meetings of anything over, I mean, that's kind of, yeah, exactly. It's kind of just been on lockdown. And it's one of those things that musical festivals are basically putting off till 2021. Anything summer.
They're getting 50 to 80,000 people. So that's just...
right.
Exponentially. Like, yeah, we'll wait to 2021, sure.
So I know for myself, I've just started focusing on, okay, once the quarantine is lifted, what are some of my like post-quarantine to-do lists or like bucket list? Mm-hmm. I've talked about traveling a little bit more, even if it's just by myself. Just basically trying to make up lists in my head of things that I do want to do once it is lifted, since something as big as a convention isn't going to be on the horizon for probably the rest of the year, let's be honest.
And that will probably give us an idea to keep an eye on Midwest Fur Fest in December. Usually it's held the first weekend of December. Keep an eye on that. Even if they give an all clear and whatnot, like traditionally speaking, a lot of these I don't want to say plagues, but a lot of these pandemics have a rise, a fall, and then shortly after they rise again. So if that second rise is going to go off of any chart you may want to pay attention to in the medical field, you're going to spike around Thanksgiving again. And that'd be terrible, especially when people are gathering again. Families are together, especially you go see grandma, and all of a sudden you killed grandma with your cough. So, yeah. Hashtag dead grandmas. Anyway.
On a normal basis, when you see someone working hard, doing something good, or accomplishing something, you want to recognize their effort and maybe take them out for a drink. Unfortunately, that clearly is not possible at the moment, but wait, Coors Light is here for the assist. According to Chris Steele, marketing director for Coors Light, the campaign #CouldUseABeer was dreamt up after the brand delivered cases of beer. That's right, I said cases of beer as a surprise to Olive Veronesi, a 93-year-old Pennsylvanian woman who who pled for more beer went viral on social media. Steele goes on to say, what inspired us most was how drinkers around the world saw Olive's photo and started posting online about how they too could really go for a beer. I don't know. I don't know if I would want to congratulate somebody with a Coors Light, but I could definitely see could use a beer.
Look, I've said it to my mom a couple times too. She lives out in the desert of Arizona, and she's like, "Yeah, I bought a case of Coors." I'm like, "Well, because water's expensive. I get it. I understand." I mean, now we sound like snobs because we definitely drink craft beers. You gotta get the flavor antenna out. And pinkies out, ladies and gentlemen. Flavor antenna.
Oh my gosh, I can't handle you.
Thank goodness. Yeah, I mean, cool on Coors for shipping a 93-year-old woman cases of beer.
I mean, does she have to alter her will and put the rest of the remainder of cases to somebody?
Again, hashtag dead grandmas? Like, what are you trying? There's a theme you're putting here.
Are you trying to just name the episode now?
Hashtag dead grandmas? Ugh, I don't know. So, yeah, like, oof, that's rough. But in the vein of drinking beer and going to the halls of Valhalla, rather than wandering around the world, at least a sandboxy creation of the world, as a wandering mercenary, as in previous games, Assassin's Creed Valhalla will put you in the role of the head of a Viking clan as you lead your warriors into battle as they topple Saxons while sailing from Norway to England and even beyond. Normans, Saxons, and beyond. Like, it seems there's going to be some settlement management where you'll be able to construct and upgrade buildings like your barracks, food stores, and hell, even a tattoo parlor to customize your Viking while recruiting new warriors to go pillaging with. There's no gameplay yet, but Ubisoft is claiming a holiday 2020 release date, as well as having the pre-order available currently on Epic Game Stores and Uplay. So I think I've seen over the years that the Assassin's Creed has kind of strayed away from the stealth mechanics. It's still in there, but they've drifted away from it, and especially in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, have decided to take far more of an RPG aspect to it.
Okay.
Though they're going into Viking territory now, do you think this is an attempt to capture the fans that were big in the latest release of God of War by Sony and Capcom? Now, I don't know if you're familiar with God of War, the newest one, where it had very much Viking boy, but very very Viking theme. Now Assassin's Creed has a tendency to do even more of a roleplay thing, because God of War had some roleplay stuff, like you're able to customize your weapon and pick up skills and stuff. But if Assassin's Creed is going to go even more for the roleplay, down to the point of even customizing the looks of your character, like, is God of War 2 going to have to really?
Well, I'm glad you said that they've kind of pulled away from the stealth aspects, because I was just kind of giggling to myself of a Viking in like full on Viking gear parkouring up some scaffolding of their Viking warship and like eagle jumping into the water. I mean, Graceful Swan doesn't seem like a very good Viking name.
I'm personally seeing like Viking diplomacy, door kicks open, axe to the head. Viking stealth, thrown axe to the head. Like, very, very simple. I mean, it could be fun. It could be good to see in that regard of dancing again, staying with the North theme. Die Trying does bring up, next up, Chang Dynasty, then the Old West, then into space, all Jason X style. Like, Assassin's Creed does lend itself to be whatever genre you want to do. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's going to be an Assassin's Creed Shang Dynasty or some sort of, you get to be a Mongolian, Assassin's Creed. So I guess God of War does kind of play a heavier role in actually playing with the mythologies rather than just the cultural appropriation, maybe?
I'm not touching that with a 10-foot battle axe.
But, yeah, I mean, it's... I haven't played the Assassin's Creed game in quite some time, so I'm definitely a little outdated in that regard. But I do like Viking-themed stuff, so... including bar crawls. And yes, I can do half a breadstick, damn it. But, yeah, I guess that concludes this week's news. So, let's go right into a little bit of stuff that we've been doing lately, because we're sitting down, sitting pretty like good boys and girls.
Yep. Staying at home.
Stay at home. Stay at home, you noobs. And Dusty White, you've been playing a video game lately. You're not too much of a video gamer, are you?
I'm not, but let's get into it this week.
All right, let's get into Gray Muzzle Game Masters.
Gray Muzzle Game Masters. So, as Red put it, I am not much of a gamer. Not much.
A video gamer.
I'm not much of a video gamer. I actually will even split it down to I am not much of a PC gamer. I would consider myself somewhat of a console gamer. I like the Switch and PlayStation 4, and I watched a lot of people game on Xbox and things like that. But I'm not much of a PC gamer. Red actually recently watched me try to do.
It was adorable. Watching you use ASDW and the mouse at the same time, like, blew your mind. Like, you're walking forward, looking at the ceiling.
I'm just not very coordinated for those types of things. I'm much more of a side-scroller enjoyer.
I like platforms.
Platform game, puzzle games, which is what I picked this game up for. A friend of the show, one of our Patreon, Bada, talked about it last week in what they're doing on their date nights. But I picked up WanderSong. And you wrote down some notes on that.
So we're going to go logic and feels here in this particular section where, Dusty White, my dear, you're going to be the feels because you got to play the game.
Right.
And I didn't play it, but I got to see a little bit of it. But, of course, I went down more of the rabbit hole, the logic behind it. So WanderSong's developer is Greg Lobanov. The producers or the publishers is Humble Bundle. And the composer is Greg Lobanov and Gordon McGallery. Gladdery. There we go. McGladdery. Look, it's the Scotch, all right? We talked about Scottish and Irish names. They're just brutal. It was released on, and this is what we found interesting, because you only recently heard about it, obviously through Bot and such. It was released on September 27, 2018.
So it's an older game.
It's 2 years old, give or take. It did win some accolades in 2018 for being which is weird, 9th best Nintendo Switch game. It also in 2019 won an indie game for excellence in narrative.
Okay.
Which I think ties into here. Narrative. It's a narration game?
You follow a bard, ironically, a singing bard on his travels to save the universe is as far as I've gotten it. Or as far as I've played it. And it's just got a unique play style. Again, very side-scroller, platformy. You have to, almost kind of like, what's the band game, Xbox game?
Rocksmith,
Rock Band. Yeah,
There's
Rock Band.
Guitar Hero.
Sorry, Guitar Hero. I was just thinking of the musical aspects of it, but you have to kind of control the bard to sing in colored.
Like a wheel, like a pie wheel or something.
And there's different mechanics of you have to sing the note in a certain length, or you have to like crouch to sing it in a lower baritone.
Octave?
Lower octave. There's just a lot of unique gameplay, and it's kind of structured because you have to go and follow the story mode. But no, I'm really enjoying it. It's a good, hey, I've got 20 minutes to kind of kill. Let me basically zone out and play this game for a little bit and then get back to doing, laundry or something. So I've really been enjoying it for sure.
So the idea of this game actually came from a cross-country bike trip. And he said that he wanted to get a feel for the journey through a video game. I've also heard that the game was described, again, by Bada, of less of a game and more of a walking simulator. Mm-hmm. What is it? Like, you've played it. Well, how do you feel? It's simple but still complicated. Is it? What would you suggest for younger? Or
yeah,
older?
Definitely younger. It's, and that kind of goes back to my ability to play games. I just don't have the mental capability to play for a long amount of time.
Sure.
I'm kind of got it instilled in my head of you could be doing other things.
Whoa. I've already got like 90 hours logged in Vermintide this like last month alone, all right?
And again, this is more to me being a gamer. I don't like grindy games. So even in our chat, Quack Quack Conk said Animal Crossing. Although we've gotten a listener to suggest playing Stardew Valley,
right?
Which I think we might actually start possibly picking up and playing.
Yeah, we're debating if we want to do that on stream, like just Twitch stream it or do it privately, because we don't want things spoiled. And we know people would like to play with us because it's a fun game for multiple people.
Right.
But I've never played it. You've never played it, so it could be a fun blind first go.
Right.
I know you don't like grindy stuff too, but I'm thinking, and I'm still tossing the idea of some sort of Minecraft thing in the near future where we could kind of just play together, and then the other gray muzzles want to kind of log in with us and mess around. It would be kind of fun just to hang on a day when things are kind of slow. Who knows? I'm seeing it a lot in the chat already too. Is everybody usually been talking about Animal Crossing, which is probably why I'm interested in Stardew Valley, because I can't currently justify the $60 on Animal Crossing. I would much rather play a smattering of small games than something that is very not linear, but it's not a whole lot of gameplay to Animal Crossing. It's a lot of give me your friend code, I want to do a thing. What? I'll pass on that.
But Quack Quack Honk does bring it up that it keeps her from concentrating on dark stuffs right now. So I definitely understand the mindset of getting involved in a game like that. And even with social distancing, it's another opportunity for you to play with people and feel connected.
And get a surprise visitor when they show up on your island and you look at the character and go, oh, that's Dusty White. Oh my goodness, she's on my island.
Right.
I read a thing where, what's his name from Frodo?
Elijah Wood.
Elijah Wood wanted to.
I almost said Elijah Craig, but that's the other.
See, this is where we're really gonna come out. Fitness experts or alcoholics. But Elijah Wood needed like turnips or something, and found somebody's Twitter. Was like, yeah, I got a bunch of turnips, and he messaged that person, and then ended up on their island, and the individual's like, yes, please show up. You're Elijah freaking Wood. Show up, like. And they showed up.
Here's my turnips.
So so it's interesting to be able to get that connection with people, because who knows who's going to look, and kind of just get a sense of community, even being far away or in a connection like that. So yeah, it's just a case of just finding ways to stay connected. Again, for me, I've been playing a lot of Vermintide 2. I've been playing with some of the boys in our LARP community, and you can see the behind us where the second half of this show is going to go. But it's nice to be able to hear some of the guys and BS with them, and even if it's just for an hour or so, run a mission or two, just being able to hear somebody else's voice other than yours or my own voice in my head. It's nice to go killing rats, and especially since rats are typically known as the bringers of the plague. It's a little bit extra fitting. It's really fitting to kill a bunch of rats. Come here, COVID, smash. You, quarantine, smash again. So yeah, it's ways to kind of communicate with people. And I'm very curious to see in the future, in the next 5 years, really, what lessons we learn from this to go into more games of communication. What kind of games are going to be developed with lockdowns in mind? Again, I talked about last week or 2 weeks ago about Pokemon Go,
right?
Finally doing something for people who aren't able-bodied, who aren't able to go running around a block or neighborhoods and go to Pokestop to Pokestop. What point are games going to start looking at these mechanics of, no, it's not just people who are crippled or sick or dealing with some sort of thing, but when a massive community or country or world is locked down even for a week or two, let alone 2 months, what kind of games can we get that could still benefit those people on top of, bring them around and stuff? So it's going to be a very, very fascinating thing to see for game developers in the future, to take into situations like this into account, especially as the world continues to get smaller, especially as there's more and more people on the planet, different diseases, different things that will kind of cause.
And I'm almost curious to see, in a few years, what studies come out and what things are developed as far as people that continue to game after this. Obviously, quarantine is a special situation, Dungeons and Dragons have become tabletopping while over the internet and doing things
You're
like
seeing people like getting better at tabletopping through stuff like Zoom or D20 roll, was it D20 roller?
yep.
All these tabletop simulators and all these other things to play these games that we took for granted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like playing Settlers of Catan, but shameless plug, you could get Tabletop Simulator that has these mods and stuff like Settlers of Catan on there, and you could play with your friends, and you could play these board games that you would normally go, I don't have time for a board game, and go, I have nothing better to do. Please play with me.
Right. Or just people getting into, I know a friend of the show was picked up Left 4 Dead again, and then ended up in a game with people half his age, but still playing because it was... This is a game I like to play. Now I have an influx of people to play with. Whereas normally you might have struggled to find a group or
especially
a team
older games
to do.
that disappeared. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even to a degree, Vermintide 2 was kind of like hanging around, but not really. And then all of a sudden, big uptick in players because everybody's in. Playing Jackbox over Zoom has been nice for connecting as well.
Absolutely.
Silence. So yeah, you'll see a lot of that as well. These social games that you could get into and whatnot. We've definitely deviated from WanderSong a little bit, anyway. So we'll go right back to that, and then we'll actually go take some our listener questions we have a small stack of. But if anybody wants to send us in chat here, we'll be happy to answer some of the stuff. But so finally, we'll go back to WanderSong. We'll kind of rewind the tape a little bit. If you're hardcore game tile, you're not going to get that. It's much more of a casual game.
Yeah.
It's something that a fair amount of ages could play. As long as you're adept with the controller.
Which I'm not.
I know. Well, you don't. You are. You were figured out easily when you said that you like using a D-pad and not a...
to make a game reference to it, I'm definitely an analog player. Like, I like the SNES
up, down, left, right. You don't like the stick.
The stick is... It's hard to... I don't know. I just don't have the gamer muscles. Take me bowling, play darts, let's go do bags. I'm just much more of a physical drink. Activities person. Gaming is just something that I prefer watching other people do than necessarily doing myself. But WanderSong, again, has been something that I've really enjoyed playing in between my smatterings of replaying Super Mario World. And I know I have to do links.
I think I would like to stream at some point you playing Breath of Fire,
right?
Which is a classic RPG. If I decide to purchase it, maybe end up getting a capture card as well. Getting Secret of Mana, which is a classic SNES game, and probably some of the other ones I would like to see for SNES you play. This is like my childhood. Super Mario RPG. Breath of Fire 1 and 2. I would say Final Fantasy 3/6, depending where you are in the world, but that takes many hours to play. A lot of the 7th Saga is still one of my favorites by Enix. By Enix USA at the time, I think it was, and or Square Enix, Squaresoft.
Got it.
Enix.
Okay.
But it was a rough game that actually altered based on how you played. It was pretty innovative for Super Nintendo. But yeah, you like that style of game. WanderSong seems to fit that niche role, be able to, again, a walking simulator, but it's pretty.
It Visually, is very pretty. Even musically, very pretty. It's like a upbeat Hollow Knight. Like, Hollow Knight is all slash and fighting.
No.
And
I think
stuff
that's actually
like
a good point, actually. But see, a lot from Hollow Knight, you could glean from the background. You can glean from... You can get a lot of narrative based on music, based on environment, based on your enemies. Like, a lot of storytelling is still told without saying a word. It seems a little bit like that at WanderSong. There is stories being told, but even the text and the font, I noticed that when I looked over your shoulder. Even the character text, some of the characters that seem more refined spoke in Times New Roman, and other characters who seem more erratic spoke in Comic Sans, which is very clever to further instill that notion of you see somebody speaking and it's very thin, fine, elegant script. you almost put a voice in your head.
Or
of them
melody.
Speaking, or a melody. I mean, I know I've seen some of it where like the ghosts, I think, were speaking in multicolor and stuff.
Uh-huh.
So it gives you an idea. You're able to tell a story with few words, but using other ways to tell that story. And I will say WanderSong has done really, really good about that. I'll be honest with you, probably when you're done and quarantine's over and you're finally out of my apartment, I'll probably end up playing it myself. That's another reason why I didn't want to watch you play too much, because it seems like something that I could, before bed, just sit down. I got it on the Switch, so I could just pull the Switch with me, play for 20 minutes, half hour, and then go to bed. And just turn it into a little nightly routine that I could actually go to bed on a lighter note. Any final words with WanderSong? Go get it. Go find it.
Try it out. Maybe there's a WanderSong 2 eventually. We'll see.
Ooh. And we got it for Nintendo Switch, but you can find it on Steam. You can find it on just about every platform. It is an indie game, so it's kind of available everywhere. Look for it. Keep an eye out. And yeah, that'll conclude our Gray Muzzle Game Masters.
Gray Muzzle Game Masters.
So, we're going to get into some listener questions. That's right. Some of you people had some things that you wanted to say and some questions to ask us. And it seems to be very heavy in the LARP, role-playing, gaming mentality. And we figured, you know what, let's lean into it and have our smattering of accoutrement background. And you know what? For those who are listening on the actual podcast, sorry you're going to miss this part. But for those who are joining us on YouTube or on Twitch, we actually had a fun little slideshow for anybody else that wants to catch some of our nonsensities. So let's switch over to some listener questions. Dusty White, lead the way.
So kind of what we meant this to be is, I know for myself, in the 17 years that I've been playing, this is the longest stretch of time that I have gone without LARPing in one way, shape, or form. I've been playing the game for, like I said, 17 years, and even though we would have winter breaks where we weren't playing because, the sites that we played are not necessarily heated all the time, this is going to be the last time we were able to play was the one day in November. There were some of the chapters that we do play at did have a January and February event, but we weren't unable to make those. So this has really been the longest stretch of time that I've gone without LARPing. And kind of to go off of last week's episode, which was very, thank you to Bada and Shadow again, but it was very furry heavy. I decided to kind of wheel it back towards something where I'm feeling more comfortable and have more,
elements here. All right.
more experience in, and kind of wheel it back to our wheelhouse of LARPing and some of our LARP questions and some of our listeners who may not be LARPers, and kind of recap on what we do when we are in the woods. Some of the questions that we will get to are more about our characters, but I would like to kind of real quickly recap, Red, what your character is, how long you've been playing, that kind of thing.
Oh, okay. I guess I have a couple characters, but my primary character that I have known and been playing in Nero International since summer of 2000. And now have been in the last 5-6 years been playing Alliance. Is, well, depending on the name, a Dusty Moongazer or Red Rapscallion. He is a fox kin or fox scavenger, fox anthro, fox in person-ish, but is a foxkin character that is just started mentality as a bard, some of it as a rogue, and has kind of just, again, I make the joke of bards are just old rogues that have stories to tell, and rogues are just young bards with stories they're going to tell. So yeah, that's his concept. I mean, there's a lot of little things that changed over the years, and it gets into, personality changes and whatnot, because I made the character when I was like 18. Well, I started LARPing when I was like 18. It's technically 17. So I am developing as a person while playing a character who is developing, and I start seeing that overlap between hey, there's some things I don't like about me as a human being, that I'm shy, I was introverted. I would never imagine in 20 years I'd be on a podcast or something. So those traits of mine that were shy, introverted, quiet, nerd kind of broke out through playing a extroverted, smarmy type character. That's kind of where I'm at. So yeah, he is a fox rogue with the mentality and the concept of being a sheer opportunist. That's really the way to look at it. I'm an opportunist, and I will take every advantage I can to achieve my goal. How about you, my dear?
I've been playing my primary character since the very get-go of starting. She's an elf, and she's been other things in the past, but she has an elf mentality. I am a healer. I am not a fluffy bunny healer, but I'm more kind of a hard ass, and you only go as far as I'm willing to go and save you. And I am a tacticianer at heart. I lead with my voice. I lead with my confidence. I get other aspects of my personality out by playing my alternates, which kind of are a little bit more of where some of my stories are going to come from. I have a fighter Sar or Cat Ken or Cat Wild Ken, whatever character or whatever thing you want to put it to, who's very just, no, it dies, whatever. Put it in front of me and it's gonna die.
And
then
right.
And then I have my fox scavenger, white Dusty or Psy. Yep, sorry, Dusty White.
Slow down. You're all over the place right now. Take a deep breath and slow down.
Dusty White is my primary. Nyota is a secondary that I have. That's the stickjack.
Right.
And then I have Psy Yip, which is my fox fighter Templar-ish. Also, by the way, because it just popped up here, happy birthday, Matt.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
One of our Patreons.
Our Patreon saint of giving us money. We need to do that. The Patreon saints. I'm onto something. But happy birthday, Matt. And he is one of the owners of Alliance South Michigan, which has really been kind of invigorating for us.
As jaded old LARPers.
As jaded old LARPers, for sure. We switched games, which kind of follow a similar suit, but we switched and played Gone from Nero to Alliance, and in that transition, we started over.
Yep.
We kept character concepts, but level 1 or 3 or whatever you start at, you low level, here you go, you're starting fresh.
Fear's back.
You get jumped in, and it's great. It was fun. It was learning a game, because we also happened to be playing right when the new rule set came out, so it kind of benefited us coming in and learning the new rule set at a lower level and graduating up. It really inspired that whole, like, for those who was always like, and I always fight against those people who are like, oh, I don't want to play another game because I don't want to start at low level again. We're like, yeah, start low level, let's do it. Let's play and learn and have fun. And to a degree, it's a level of smarm on my behalf of going, I don't need level to beat you. I don't need level to outthink or outwit or outplay. Like, level helps, but I will do what I can using age, using the gray muzzle to my advantage.
So we'll kind of start kind of backwards here with our most recent question. Becky, or Blue.
Patreon questions first.
I apologize. Okay. DM Benjamin, one of the most top 3, or I'm sorry, do you craft your own weapons and gear and garb? What's the best thing about LARPing in your opinion? So it's 2 different questions, but as somebody that used to make his own weapons.
I mean, everything you basically see except for the blue thing in the back. I make my own weapons, and for the longest time, and I still kind of am very staunch on make your own weapons. When you come into a LARP, be it SCA, Balgrath, Amtgard, Nero, Alliance, Foam Boffer, or whatever else, I'm a big fan of make your own weapons because there's a level of understanding you get with the weapons. There's a lot of trust that comes into these games that we don't think about. You, as a player, could be wandering alone in the woods at these Boy Scout camps, wherever else we play, Boy Scout, 4-H, whatever, Scout camps. you as an individual player, let's say you're wandering alone, which again is never advisable, but you're wandering alone in the woods, you would need to have trust in, let's say, me, who is either an NPC or a monster or whatever, to jump out at you in the woods, to strike you with these weapons, and do it all in a safe manner where you feel safe, I feel safe, and there's an understanding of it's all a game, everything's cool, and we move on. There's a lot of trust there, but we don't think about it because we've been doing it for so long. So part of that trust to me is understanding how the weapons are made, understanding what kind of foam you're using, what kind of core you're using, all of that stuff, to me, is big into understanding what are you being hit with, what are you being encountered with, why something is safe, and not is it, oh, this weapon's not safe. Why is it not safe? Why is it heavy? Why do you have to fight a certain way with it? So I always try to push, especially when there's other companies that are out there that sell like latex weapons and very fancy and pretty weapons. I'm down for that too, man. They look great, and especially for cosplaying and
cosplays.
But depending where you go, and I will make the vague argument of being in the Midwest, we play in January, and it's 5 degrees outside. Some of those weapons turn into bricks. So yeah, ultimately though, I still will back. Make your own weapons, learn how they are, learn what they are, learn how to do it. Maybe you can make a weapon for yourself that screams you, like my crescent moon, everything. And then if you don't like it or don't want to have the time for it or don't want to keep the upkeep on it and repairing it every couple of years, go buy it.
Right.
What about you?
I am a big proponent of also making your own weapons.
But you're also a seamstress, right?
I learned how to sew because of LARP. I got into LARPing, and within months of doing it, I asked for, at the age of 18, 19, asked for a sewing machine for Christmas.
Cheers, I did for my 18th birthday.
Right. So within months of starting to LARP, I did have my own costume that I made myself. And for the longest time, actually used the hem of the first skirt that I made as my circle rep for the game. Okay. But as far as weapons are concerned, again, I will take it on the person. I used to run, I was head of plot of a game for 5 years, and and it was towards the swing of all the LARP weapons or all the latex weapons becoming popular. When they first came out, they were not good. They looked great. Again, great for cosplay. Duct tape and plumbing supplies basically coming at you.
Correct.
But at the same time, for somebody who is running the game and getting hit by, say, 7 of them at the same time in January or November when it was cold out, I would look like I had gotten beaten, which in theory I did, but
you would bruise.
I would bruise. And it got to the point where that's actually one of the reasons why, not to get into the politics of it, but that's one of the reasons why I ended up stopping running plot for that chapter, was because latex started getting pushed, and I was like, I'm done. I'm so done.
You're tired of looking like a black and blue, a banana.
The latex has gotten way better over the years, and some of our fans of the show and people that we play with on a regular basis are latex users, and I wouldn't necessarily mind getting beaten over the head several thousand times with those weapons now. But again, please look into making your own stuff or getting into a trade and make your own stuff. Seamstresses.
We've seen a lot of leather workers.
Oh, leatherworking is great, especially in a quarantine situation like that. Even now, one of my projects is hand sewing a patch. Yep. and adding personal details to my costume based on symbols that we wear. But yeah, getting into certain things like that is great, and really gives you an opportunity to be in a hobby when you're off time.
And that's where it becomes funny when you're dealing with like LARPing in general. It's I hate saying it sometimes because it can be intimidating. It's not just a weekend hobby. Like for people who've talked to us before of like, oh, what does it take? Yeah, you could go in. I've seen plenty of graduation robe or bathrobe mages. I've seen plenty of light armor, leather, old vests or whatever else, Ren Fair type garb. But when you get into it, and it's obviously something that you become passionate about, You start a collection. You start having trinkets. I mean, again, I want to call him out. Our podcast artist and pusher Travis, who plays Zane. You could look at Zane, take about 5 minutes. Actually, think about it. Link, Mathis, all of them. You could look at their costume for 5 minutes, and you start noticing details of their costume. And each of those detailed pieces tell a story in of itself. It's not just, oh, hey, I've got a leather belt. Wait, you've got 6 different things hanging off the belt. What are those? What is that piece? What does that mean? Where did that come from? So there's a level of that. I've spent plenty of time preparing for events. Like, I've definitely seen back-to-back weekends, which would consist of me preparing on Thursday, packing everything, playing from Friday to Sunday, getting home, going to sleep, waking up Monday, doing laundry on Monday, Tuesday, a day of rest, Wednesday, starting a checklist, Thursday, repacking, Friday, making sure everything is packed and driving out, and Saturday. So what is supposed to be a weekend thing is now a full week and a half of prepping, laundry, cleaning, getting weapons ready, weapons checked, make sure your leather is taken care of, all of that stuff. So it's more than just a little, like, here and there
and kind of while he
type thing.
I was gonna say restarting the stream here. So we'll go to the second part of that question. What's the best thing about LARPing in your opinion? I know we've kind of talked about it a couple of different episodes,
Sure.
But maybe for some of our newer listeners or newer fans, what are some of your top 3 best things about LARPing?
I still go to a level of escapism. And I don't mean escapism as in, like, traumatic escapism, life is so difficult, etc. I live in a world where I am surrounded by electronics. I live in a world where, yay, I have a chunk of metal, a little piece of plastic and metal on my hip that could allow somebody to contact me at any point in time, that allows me to order 5 pounds of sugarless gummy bears at any point in time. Wink, wink. Like, I could do great many things with this kind of technology, but it also becomes overwhelming. It becomes distracting. I find myself flipping through Facebook or flipping through Instagram. Check us out on Instagram, Gary Muzzle Geekery. And yeah, I'm a whore. But I find myself doing that when I'm at a LARP. Everything's put away. Everything is disconnected. The world stopped. Like, I've actually played an event where a significant other's grandma passed. Like, passed away on a Friday night, but we didn't get the call until Sunday. And yeah, it's unfortunate. Excuse me. It's unfortunate, but at the same time, there wasn't much they were able to do. So in a way, that disconnect actually helped. Let them focus and let them breathe and let them go, hey, it's unfortunate, but things continue. So I do like that disconnect. I like the separation. I like to be able to get away from the world and do something. Obviously, some of the good thing is I like the physical aspect of the game.
Right.
Like, some could say I'm a stick jock, but I do like getting into fights. I do like the physical aspect that's offered by the game. That is more than just role-playing. Hello, my lord. How are you? Fine day to thee. No, I'm going to hit you with a piece of foam and pretend it's a sword.
You like the physical exertion of it.
Oh, I love running up and down hills and putting on 50,000 steps on my Fitbit, sweating in an extra 15 pounds of armor. Like, oh, I love it.
I would say at least for me, some of it is the mental escapism. Kind of like what Red said. It's not necessarily like, oh, my life is so hard, I need to escape for long periods of time. Right. But there is something to say about, man, I work day in Monday through Friday for this job that I do love, but it's one of those things of you may not feel that completionist feeling when you have a job like that. But when I go and escape for a weekend or I go and LARP, there's mini missions over the weekend that I start a task, I can complete a task and go to bed completed on that task.
That is a good point to think. There is a sense of accomplishment that happens through a weekend. Even if you fail, there's still a level of accomplishment of using skills you didn't know you had. Maybe, you may not be a leader or management. Maybe you're just like, in my case, I am just a number.
Right.
Like, I am a number. I build things, whatnot. But then I become not a number. I become a manager. I become a leader. I become the main character in a story, even if just for a little bit, to go, this is about me or this is about this. So, yeah, I could absolutely see that being a big pool for people as well, to go, I am the hero or I am important. Mm-hmm. Weird way to say it. Everybody's important. Everybody has value, especially nowadays where depression's running rampant. Like, you are important. You are essential, regardless if you're working from home or not. You are essential. However, there's some nice things about LARPing that allows you to really accelerate that feeling of, we just saved the kingdom.
Right. And it's the mental aspect of also kind of dealing with some of your own, like, take it for what it is. You're kind of dealing and working through your own bullshit. There might be times where I, as a person, on a regular everyday basis, feel unessential. But when I go into LARP and I put that costume on, or I put that armor on, or I put that that tabard on, I feel I mean something. I am essential. I am going to go accomplish this thing that causes ripples in the world that is being created, or the world that's being told, that it means something. Mm-hmm. Alliance South Michigan does a really good job for stapling that into you as a player, to, you are here because you matter, and you can
have a
accomplish
part to play.
Great things.
You have a part
Absolutely.
to play, and you did that yourself though for when you ran plot for Nero Highborn. You were a veteran player, so you're able to take that mentality of what made me feel good. How do I make other players feel that good too? I think another little thing too, maybe if I can remember it offhand, is what was I saying? Oh, the community. That's another big thing about LARPing that I really miss. I was sitting there thinking, we had this conversation just a couple days ago. I'm an introvert. Mm-hmm. I have no problem. Like, quarantine does not bother me that much. I could lock in, sit down, play a video game. I could go play my guitars. I could be inside all day. No big deal. You know what I really freaking miss? Really crappy pizza on a Sunday with 40 other people smelling like nuts and butts, talking about the good time that we had, beating each other up, the confrontation, like that Saturday afternoon or that Sunday afternoon pizza, like a pizza and a beer before a long drive home. Wink, wink. Like, man, I love that moment of being able to sit back, look around, and see everybody enwrapped in their own conversations about the weekend, about the things that they did, the experiences that they had, the community that was built, and again, that level of trust. There are some players at some games that I play that I may not be friends with in real life, or that I may not know all that well in real life, but there's absolutely a level of trust that I have to have for them, where if they jumped out of the woods wielding 2 pieces of foam, like foam weapons, that I am trusting them to not rock me in the face and not abuse the game, and they have the same trust for me to do the same.
Right.
There's something to be said about that. There's something to be said about trusting a stranger that's playing that game all for the benefit of the community. I may not even know these people outside of the game, really. And there's a couple people you're thinking about I can mention. I don't want to get too prideful on the whole thing, but there's some people that we don't know all that well. But I will roll
We're working on it.
But even then, I will roll into the woods with them. No problem. Hey, hit me. We hit. Cool. Good game. And we may not talk until the next game. But, God, there's something about the community and that relationship that is formed that regardless of what happens in life, we're there to play the game, we're there to play fair, we're there to have fun, and go from there. It's you can't beat that. That's so unique.
and I kind of I've talked about it to other people that are not LARPers but they're passionate about another subsection or a subgenre or something else in their life that they are passionate about. I bring it back to community. Community for a topic such as LARPing is like the family or tribe or, again, community that you build. I wouldn't have the job that I have. I wouldn't have the friends that I have. I wouldn't be living the life that I'm living if it wasn't for this game and the community that I've become a pretty big and an important part of because I love it so much and it does drive my passion to play it. So to kind of go back to some questions here, do either of you GM at LARPs or play NPCs? That's from one of our newer listens, DM Ben.
Yep.
I ran or head of plotted for Nero Highborn for 5 years. I would love to get back into plotting.
Which we're, depending how this year goes, we are technically scheduled to run a
with
one-off.
Another one of our friends and very close listener of the group.
Close listener?
Or close
friend of the...
And listener.
Deep breath.
TC. We are running a September Alliance South Michigan event. Knock on wood that everything goes okay.
We might be the season opener.
We are running an event in September. So it's kind of like my step back into it. I've got a lot of plotting ideas. I love telling stories. I love getting that aspect of the game out. I probably would run another game again. It just would depend on other factors really coming into play. But to kind of give you a background, then yes, I did GM and I did NPC basically.
Yeah, you definitely took the head of plot step. I was always kind of monster monkey. Mm-hmm. I'm not great with coming up with ideas, and you see that from when we're doing stuff. I have difficulty coming up with ideas, but I will improve an idea in a heartbeat. I think that's where my specialty is of, okay, what's your idea? Let's work with it. Let's hammer it out. So I'm good at that. So I often was a monster monkey or just like a plot member, but never head of plot. I did that back 2005, 2006. No, like 3, 4, 5. I did it. I've NPC'd and played a lot of monsters. I've done a lot of roles. I have been called specifically because of my particular set of skills that I have. Hey, we need skinny fast guy to go do a thing. Okay. Or we need somebody who's got rogue-like tendencies to play a rogue. Because sometimes you want to put a challenging encounter for somebody. And you want to, I do like playing a caster sometimes. But I will be outcast in a heartbeat by other, like, me versus you, Dusty White, in a caster contest, you will smoke me. You will smoke me. I will hit you with a packet before you hit me. A little mistouch cast. But I think that, like, in terms of casting and incanting, all that stuff, I will get smoked.
Yes.
But if we're going to go, hey, and I will still play a caster, but if we're like, hey, we need a rogue that could play a rogue for this particular module, you need to be a really tough bad guy, not just a 2-pump chump. Mm-hmm. I could be your Huckleberry. So I've got experience. Yes, I NPC on a regular basis as well. A lot of these games that we play also encourage 2 to 4 hour shifts to come in and just NPC for a little bit. Just kind of take the burden off of the main plot team who sometimes are running on a thinner crew or have big ideas.
But they need the filler.
They need bodies.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not even a glorious role. Hey, here's your stats. Go out there and keep just being this thing until we're done. And it, again, goes back to that trust of, okay, I will do this because they need this or they expect this from me. And oftentimes it comes out better because of just that, oh, I want to play a super bad guy. No, you need me to play Skeleton Crunchy number 6. I will be Skeleton Crunchy number 6, 12, 18, 24. Like, I got this.
So, Red Reese, also one of our Patreon listeners, goes ahead and asks, are there any noteworthy geekish events from the past that you wish you could have been a part of? And I asked this question because for me, as somebody that has been playing for 17 years and been around and been aware of the game for even longer than that, like Red and some of our friends, one thing, it may not have been a specific event that I wish I could have been able to, but I would have loved to have been of the world or the time period where 5-day, 9 days, 2 weeks events happen. I've never gotten to be a part of an event longer than I think there was a chapter in my early years that played maybe a 4-day because of like July 4th. But I've heard of...
Die Trying already said, you think you want this, you do not.
I've been friends with a lot of people that one of my dearest friends and somebody I started playing with and created an older team that I was a big part leadership of played for 28 days.
Nearly consecutively too.
28 consecutive days based on
it was like 28 days and the 28 game day event in a total of 30 days because there was like a couple days between traveling,
right?
But it was definitely like a 9-day, a 7-day,
to the point where he didn't answer to his own name. His parents had to call him his character name to get his attention a couple of days after coming back from this.
And you want to talk about smelling like nuts and butts.
There's something about it. The coolest thing I've ever done as a LARPer, or the coolest location I've ever played as a LARPer, was in Tennessee. I got to play in a cavern. Actually cave system. But at the same time, I really would have liked to have had that extended period of gameplay. I don't know why it's like that. It's like people talking about being on crack back in the 80s. It was cool.
No.
There's just a level of, I wish I could have been there when it happened. What about you?
I've done a lot of 3 days. I guess the wildest I did a Texas game. I think, Dallas Fort Worth back in the day, where I flew out. We played on a Wednesday, like started Wednesday night. So game was canceled game was called at 4. Everybody, or a good chunk of people, went to the chapter owner's house, who, I have to admit, I was a little spoiled. He had like 6 Thanksgiving turkeys in his smoker for the last like 20 something hours.
Okay.
So we got it to his house. It's Thursday Thanksgiving at like 4 or 5 o'clock. We had Thanksgiving dinner. And then about 10 p.m., we all drove back to site and then started up again Thursday night all the way to Sunday. So it was like a 4.5 day event or something like that. That's probably one of my longest. I was part of a 5-day, but I definitely did like a Friday to like Monday-ish, and it was Monday, Tuesday, and was like, nah, this is going nowhere. Because your plot team's burnt out, your players are fried, it goes less from like game and actually playing and fighting everything else to just a lot of sitting around telling stories and grilling. I don't mind that. But I think I'm now of an older age where I'll just go to my friend's house, tell stories and grill, and have scotch or bourbon or whiskey, like actually be able to drink and do, because a lot of the games that we play, and I'll say that now, a lot of games that we play don't allow alcohol. Not saying I need to drink to have fun, but it sure as hell helps.
So there is a little bit of that for me of I feel like I came past the prime time or the prime
you came around when the experiments were done.
I guess. Yes.
I agree with Travis in the sense of you think it sounds cool, but unfortunately there's some parts where the game no longer becomes fun because you could see everybody's trying to conserve their energy for day 3, day 4, day 5, where a 3-day could be fun, but even a 3-day could be bad if your plot team's not willing to basically nut up on Sunday afternoon as well and Sunday evening. It really becomes draining, and especially when you're doing a lot of physical stuff and whatnot, it's questionable. It could be rough.
So we'll kind of wrap it up here with one last question that I think will take a little bit of time to explain, at least for some, for Red and I. Travis or Seabass, asks one of the most or top 3 in-game moment that surprised you. The lock in the moment, holy crap, total in-game moment out of the blue.
Yeah. I want to say you first because you might have me stumped because I have to cycle through memories of...
I have 2, right. And one of them was plot-driven, one of them was not. I will go with the plot-driven one.
You, because I have...
Okay. I will go with my plot-driven one or my game master-driven one first, and it was recently or within the last year or so. And it was, and I know we've talked about it, but the in-game immersion of full moon, surrounded in the dark, out in the forest and hearing a whisper over my right shoulder and not seeing, and we've talked about it in the other episode, but not
this is the Gaunt but not forgotten episode.
Yes.
Okay.
Looking for the plot person in a out-of-game headband to, I guess, reconnect to, okay, I'm at a game. Well, because of the way the plot team did it with Bluetooth speakers, I scanned the horizon for that signal or that thing and didn't see it, and it immediately put me into the world, and I was completely 100% immersed to the point where hearing a whisper and not being able to put something to it scared me.
Right.
Like, Kristen had a guttural reaction
You
of
had a connection.
fear. To the point where I moved to the other side of the group of people thinking, okay, they're right behind me and I just can't see them, to still be hearing it over the right of my shoulder and hearing that whisper and just being 100% in the moment. That would be my in-game moment.
So what's the term? Geek? Like there's got to be some geek background here.
Okay.
Because this is actually a moment that was inspired by the rules of the game.
Okay.
And what's the term we're looking for? From our friends from the Whiskey Tribe. Geek something.
Nerd cred?
Nerd curve? Or was it
a
cred?
nerd curve.
A nerd curve. There it is. A nerd curve. So I got to explain a little bit, because this is where, unfortunately, a story only gets good when you explain it. This is why I never use it for otherworldly stories. Because you have to explain a story, and to explain the story to get it is never really as good. But one of the things in the games that we play is when you die, when your character dies, or when a character dies, they generally forget the last, hour of everything that happened to their death. So your character dies, you come back to life, you're missing that last hour that usually led to your death. Okay? Cool. Got it. Well, there's a group of elemental slayers that was being attacked by these other creatures, because the elementals knew that they couldn't hurt these slayers, so they hired these basically underlings to completely ambush these elemental slayers. Cool. We as the players heard that these elemental slayers got ambushed and found out one of them permanently died. Again, you die, you put beads in a bag. The more times you die, the more black beads you put in there. Eventually you draw a black bead, character's dead. There's a whole math system, don't worry, not relevant. This NPC non-player character eventually died, who's supposed to be our tie. There's an ability in game called Spirit Farewell, which basically means that it's a ritual. You do this and you summon the spirit into the circle that you're in, and the spirit will have a conversation with you. Well, usually it's a conversation that basically is whatever memories that they have. So we found out that this guy died, and we wanted to do a Spirit Farewell to try to get information from this guy, because he's one of the elemental slayers, and he was very important. The thing that threw me is it's all dark, it's middle of the night, we want to contact the slayer to figure out what happened to him, and it was fresh. It was within hours old of him getting killed. We do the ritual, we're all around, it's quiet, there's candles, we've got a legitimate scene going, a role-playing scene, where if you see a TV show, it looks like a role-play scene. The ritual completes, the ritual succeeds. Out from the front door, in his white headband showing that he's out of game, is the guy that normally plays that slayer. Mm-hmm. He steps into the circle, sword and shield in hand, and again, he's a spirit, so he really can't hurt us, can't do anything, but he's a ghost for the most part. He takes off his headband to show, and he starts doing the count. 1, the ghost appears. 2, the ghost appears. 3, the ghost appears. And then from the quiet thing, he looks out into the distance, not even looking at any of us who are around him, and just belts out, "To arms, my brothers. They ambush us from the left. Circle around, flank here." And as he's starting to give battle commands, you see, great acting by, and actually Chris Silly, one of our friends, he's slowly starts to drop, and his sword and shield slowly lowers, and you can see as he's looking around the recognition of his eyes, and then he looks to us, he goes, "How many of my brothers have fallen as well?" And that broke me. I got so immersed into the scene, I got so sucked in to be I bought into everything that he died. His brothers died. Everybody died. And the fact that he came into being with no knowledge of his own death, no memory of it. The last memory that he has is him about to be ambushed and him about to fight. Just ripped any fabric of reality from my game and just stared at it like, what is going on? And it was impactful. It was so strong. And very, very, to this day, he is still one of like my top 10 sharp moments that's gone with me over the last 20 years of playing. It just pulled me aside for sure.
So to talk about a moment that was completely character driven or other characters driven, which kind of goes into another question of Becky and Blue asked of what moments do you feel like you've impacted other characters? Okay. I started playing the game, and probably 7 or 8 years into playing, I came across a group of individuals that I really glommed onto, and to the point of I moved from my hometown in Springfield to Chicago to be closer to these people to grow a friendship.
Chicago.
Okay. However, in game, during that creation of that friendship was also a creation of a group. That group was called Redemption. And that group grew into 12 or 10 to 12 players playing together that became friends, that we started doing things and group activities and real life things happened.
I was part of that group.
You were. That group, when coming back to the game after I had stopped plotting because I'd gotten burned out on the game, I'd stopped kind of doing things, that I started playing again, and that group got kind of glommed on, or there was other groups that were playing that were kind of fractioned off and stuff. Ultimately, it turned into something that completely caught me off guard at the time. As people know me, the people that watch the show or listen to the show, as Red is a friend. It's really hard to keep secrets from me because I always end up hearing or putting two and two together. Mm-hmm. A rather large smattering of people were able to keep a very out of game and in game secret from my character, to the point of dragging her off into the woods, not really knowing what was going on, and basically providing a flag ceremony, for a lack of better words, to kind of conglomerate a fracturing of other groups under one banner. And it ended up being called Banner Club. But it was given as almost a award ceremony or type of like I don't even know what to call it, but it was basically me and this other leader that I created this group Redemption with, being surrounded by our friends and shown that no matter what happened by in-game means or kind of the undertone of out-of-game means, that friendship was what brought us all together. And it was only my friends. It wasn't plot-driven. It wasn't anything else other than a group of 20 some odd individuals coming together, providing these banners that were sewn and made. And I am not really an emotional character as Dusty, so there's photos of catching me as I progressed to tears.
You cried.
I cried like a little girl. But it was something that caught me, and it will probably stay in my mind as a very pivotal role of these people trusted me to be a leader. These people gathered underneath my banner to show that this was what they believed in, and believed in me as a leader, and believed in what I was offering to that group and doing. Tits and tats and fights are going to happen, but ultimately, As long as you have love or care in your heart, it's always for the best and for the betterment of everybody. And Red's giving me the eyes here because he knows he's so full of shit. But
you don't want to go into it, or you want me to go into it?
So anyway, that goes back to an in-game moment that really brought me.
And And I guess that's
really brought me into the game.
And I guess we could kind of close on that because it's interesting how memories work. And it's interesting how LARPing is, because what scene one character or one person sees, I saw something completely different that weekend. But that's a story for another time. For now, let's remember that we're all geeks, and to be otherwise may very well mean to live without passion. Thank you all very much. Have yourself a wonderful night. Thank you for listening to another episode of Gray Muzzle Geekery with Dusty Red and Dusty White.
You can support our continued geekery at our Patreon website, patreon.com/graymuzzlegeekery. Be sure to check back often as we start to add geek cred levels.
You can send your questions and comments to us at graymuzzlegeekery@gmail.com or find us on Twitter at graymuzzlegeek.
We can be found on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and Buzzsprout.
And a special thank you to Pepper Coyote for our intro theme. And if you like what you heard, you can find more of his stuff on Spotify, Patreon, or directly from his Bandcamp page. Well, I guess we'll hang for a minute or two. But, yeah, I want to thank everybody for, I posed that question. My intent was to ask someone that dragged you into a game.
Okay.
That's definitely good. I mean, hey, send us questions. Again, we'll ask everybody again. We will take order of questions, though. Obviously, we want to make sure we get our Patreon supporters questions first. So obviously you have a burning question and want to make sure it's pushed to the front of the line. We are easily bribed. Let's call it for what it is. I'm an opportunist. I will take a bribe. Not a big deal. But yeah, I mean, again, for those who are really left,
thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Obviously, I'm hoping to, once quarantine and everything else is done, we could talk a little off air now. We're on air, but this will all be cut out of the actual podcast. Out of the
recording.
The YouTube, the recording. They'll stay on Twitch, so hey, if you really get feisty, you can find us talking shit here. But we're hoping to get the upgraded audio equipment. We're going to actually have headphones for each other. We're actually going to have professional podcasting microphones and a full soundboard that'll allow me to bypass some of the nonsense I have to deal with, and I don't have to go through side projects and everything else. It's also going to have portability features. One of the things we talked about is being able to do convention conversations. So being able to do, just in Furry alone, be able to do First Squared, Motor City FurCon, Anthrocon, and Midwest Fur Fest. But then be able to do
on spot, hopefully brewery.
Well, I was taking the conventions first. Maybe hit some of the WizardCon here in Chicago, Comic Cons, any of those other conventions here in the area, even some anime cons, because it is a all-in-one unit. We could just bring it, record it onto. I don't need a laptop or anything else. Record right onto there onto an SD card. Then I could take it home, do the editing there. On top of what we would like to do, especially in this time when a lot of breweries and distilleries and these small businesses are taking a beating. Again, I'm speaking specifically to our friend and our artist, Travis, the Whiskey Tribe. Daniel?
Daniel and Rex.
Daniel and Rex are the two hosts. Daniel reminds me of you, dude, in a good way. Like, tells stories, he's a
whiskey sommelier.
He's a level 3 whiskey sommelier, but the way he describes it, it's not in a snobby way. It's not I'm better than you. He's like, what do you tell me what you see, and then we'll walk through this together. Okay, you're tasting what? You're tasting almonds. Where do you think that's coming from? You're correct. Do you taste this as well? It's just the way he tells the story, his personality, the way he kind of breaks things down really reminds me of Travis. Obviously, Rex reminds us of an old friend, Timmy Grzelka.
Yep.
Who actually ran what podcast did he do?
Prescribed Buffoonery.
But yeah, so no,
he's great.
He's actually we actually signed up for their Facebook team, their newsletter. You become a magnificent bastard. They actually have a distillery of their own that is fully crowdsourced. It's actually
first crowdsourced distillery in the United States.
And it's located in Austin, Texas, called the Fang and Feather.
No, it's Crowded Barrel.
Crowded Barrel. Well, no. Crowded Barrel is the distillery itself was crowdsourced. The whiskey that they make is Crowded Barrel because it's the crowdsourced barrel. And then the bar that they created out of it as well is the Fang and Feather. I want to go. That's definitely one of my. I would love to go there and drink with those guys. They know what they're talking about. They really like to break down whiskey. There's more Scotch people, but they love bourbons and everything else. They break everything down.
It's kind of our rabbit hole recently.
It's been our big time rabbit hole. Something we'll probably talk about in a future episode because we would like to give them a little thumbs up because it's a lot of fun.
Nice joke, quack quack honk.
Yeah, just keep breathing in the cyanide. So it's fun stuff, and yeah, it definitely reminds us of that. So, but what this unit that we're going to pick up in the near future is going to allow us to do is we could just bring the whole thing, and we would like to go to some of the local breweries. There's a distillery out in DeKalb called Whiskey Acres. They actually grow their own corn on site. That you can see there. I don't know how well you can see, but as you're shaking it around the camera, there we go. We would like to go and talk to their master distiller and just sit down like, hey, do you guys have 20 minutes?
He's such a GQ. Matt, sorry.
No, you saw our photos
distracted
on
by
here?
Mathis's GQ shot.
And you know what? If we ever end up in Buffalo, New York, I have no problem going and doing interviews with people. I would like to spend more time, a little bit more with interviewing, a little bit more branching out. I'm waiting for things to happen so I could actually, realistically, I want to sit and have an interview with the boys who own and run and operate Alliance South Michigan on why you do what you do, what got you into it, all that stuff. So there's a lot we want to do. There's a lot we want to do it with. And unfortunately, with the current setup, it's hard to do because we've got a single mic and it's kind of a pain in the tail, especially behind the scenes of dealing with echoes, dealing with Dusty White sounding like a robot and everything else. And I'm limited to what I could do. So I just said, you know what? I'm going to throw money down. A lot of it is Patreon supporters. I mean, we're what, $40 a month now, thanks to you guys. We appreciate it. And it allows us to continue to purchase equipment that'll help us make a better show and possibly more interesting with interviews with people who do things, who are geeky and passionate about things and what they do for a living. That's what we want. Because we have whiskey geeks. There's nothing wrong with being a whiskey geek. If you're passionate, again, as the quote, if you're passionate about whiskey.
Something. Or anything.
We want to talk to you and know where that passion come from. Why? What stemmed it? Was it something that was family tradition or something you went, no, I'm going to go do it. So that's what we would like to do. That's where our aim is. That's the point of Gray Muzzle Geekery is people in their 30s and pushing 40s who are still reaching out to the 20-year-olds and younger generations to go, this is why we're interested in this. Again, Animal Crossing is a good example. Like, kids and adults are playing it. Magic the Gathering and Pokemon cards, generations are playing it. So there's definitely a tie between the two we can get into. Whiskey is definitely generational in my family, at least. So So yeah, that's what we're hoping to do. Again, for conventions, for fur conventions, because we could talk to some people. Obviously, Uncle Kage. We could get Alkali and Xander on the line, which won't be hard to do.
Right.
Just I don't feel comfortable doing it in this current setup. That is just a single Yeti mic and some duct tape and prayer. There's a lot of prayer. I'm an atheist, and there's a lot of prayer involved. Other than that, yeah, I mean, again, enjoy the photos that we kind of got going, that little collage. I like to do, Dusty White kind of came up with that last minute of, hey, can we, well, I like how you put it of, is this too tough for you? And like,
I didn't mean it in that way, but I just didn't know you were the technical mindset. I can just come up with the ideas and you see if you can make them happen. So.
Right, but don't belittle me before telling me your idea. Tell me your idea and I'll work down from there.
And obviously some of you may have been part of Otherworldly Stories over the last couple of years when we do conventions. So some of these pictures are familiar to you guys. Obviously Alkali is pretty heavy on here because they are coming from those cons. But again, any questions you guys have about LARP, reach out to us. We will answer them or we will get you in contact with people that can answer them. We as
Discard's your friend.
Yeah, as Travis said, a lot of these photos were taken by myself, taken by other players. I like the photography of the game. We try to take photos that correlate well, but sometimes it doesn't. So again, please reach out. We are very passionate about this subject. The more people we can get to play this game, the more people we can get into LARPing communities in general means the community stays fresh, it stays alive, and it continues to thrive because everybody's ideas and everything can get better with more people involved.
It could be an old idea with a new twist.
Yep.
That's all it takes. Like there's only so many things that you can do. Like every story has been told, but it hasn't been told the same way. Right. And it's those differences that can make or break a good story or different story or whatnot. So, actually, who is our photographer on LARPs? A lot of it here is our lovely Dusty White. We do have the occasional point and shoot of Jen Pescivant.
Yep, and Annette or Sin.
Annette and Sin has taken some photos as well. We've gotten, there's some old stuff there. I'm looking now. Now I'm actually focusing on the photos. There is a lot taken by you primarily. You are a DSL owner, and you are big on that. I think this one even was taken by Travis's wife.
And Travis's art.
And that's Travis's art there as well. So you'll get a lot of things. It's rarely a... Yeah, okay. Jen, Becky, Moon, Annette, and Regan.
Yep.
It's rare you're going to get, like, one photographer. A lot of time you'll have multiple photographers showing up at the same time. Some of them taking professionally shot type photos with a DSLR. Some of them are just a Pixel 2 or an iPhone.
A lot of the time, I was going to say, a lot of the times I can't get... I can't get out of game sometimes because I'm integral to the
You're a freaking healer. Get over here.
The mod. So there's sometimes that I just can't get away to be able to take 20, 40 minutes out of a game to take shots. But I do try to take photos and make sure people feel good about what I'm taking photos of.
And again, Die Trying or Travis, he's our artist. He's done a lot of
Travis.
we've got the posters, our business cards, the logo that you see for Grey Muzzle, even the featured on Grey Muzzle Geekery, which we still gotta poke you to edit. That's my crappy Photoshop garbage. I'm gonna need something cleaner. Wink, wink. Love, or whatever else. I got scotch for you. Like, I'll buy you a bottle of scotch. Bottom scotch is expensive shit. But you sent them. You did that bottom one redone.
Call him out, Travis.
No, that's fine. If you redid that bottom one, that's great. I just didn't see them. I don't know. I gotta find them then. But yeah, so it's just. But Travis, Die Trying 37, he does a lot of our does all of our art, our stuff. He did our photos the poster for the
First Squared.
The First Squared 2020's theme was Cyberpunk.
Ben, you might have something in your mail soon.
Yeah, let's say, Ben, we sent out your Patreon gift, and I know we're waiting for Orion to get back with us. We sent him an email. We'll probably send him another one soon just to kind of retouch so we could send out your gifts. We are debating, and maybe we'll talk again. We need to figure out some more gifts in the future. I'm thinking of bringing another tier into fruition, like a $7 tier, where we'll actually do enamel pins as well. Mm-hmm. With just the logo, the head logo. And if we can convince Travis, since we already have the design, we just need to get it done, we could get the some Grey Muzzle t-shirts going as well. And that'll be a lot of fun for just kind of getting the name out there and getting stuff like that. So, it's weird because I'm doing all this research on how we grow... Patreon prize, custom art. That would be fun. Uh-huh. Maybe we'll do a raffle. Maybe we'll do some sort of raffle to get custom...
Well, the person you were talking about in your story, Christopher Sylvie made a suggestion of if we get to a certain level, doing...
And this is off the record, but...
having somebody DM a tabletop session with us being part of it.
Yeah, he mentioned that he will run for like 5 of us, so us 2 and 3 additional players. He'll run a one-shot for us. Yep. And it'll be kind of a prize, a raffle to actually come in D&D, probably 5th edition, most likely, because it's pretty friendly. I'm a 3.5. I started in 2nd. I played a lot of 3, but mostly 3.5, and I played a bit of Pathfinder. But 5. I haven't played much 5, and in fact, the only time I've played 5 has been for charity or at a convention where it's like, here's your character sheet and go. I've definitely, and actually for Ben here, I'll pull, because I actually, actually here, you go into the Dragget show, is some affiliates of ours, some friend of ours, actually kind of part of the inspiration for this podcast as well. They're a very furry-based podcast, and they're definitely off-the-wall shit talk comedians.
Don't play it at your show.
Don't play it at your show. Don't play it at your store. Don't play it at work. Not safe for work, etc. We're mostly good. Alkalized fuck tubs. It's a good example. But anyway, he did a Dungeons and Dragons where he actually played like D&D with us, and I was actually one of them. And we had another one of our friends, Iranor, who did a piece of art for one of the characters I played in that show. It was, a year long? So it's
roughly. I want to say like
episodes,
8 months, 8 months worth, because you guys were playing like 3 or 4 sessions a time, but you spaced it out over a year.
But it was a lot of stuff, and one of our fans actually did some custom art, and I was playing Twitch Tinkerfoot, the Halfling Bard, and somebody actually did art. So hang on.
So yes, we would love to try to do that. Cause again, we would love to tabletop with some of our friends. I know some of us have actually done Monster of the Week together, and that was super fun. But yeah, Patreon prize custom arts, things like that would be great. But yeah, that was done by one of our followers, in our Discord chat, Ernor, who has also posted he's got a coffee account. But again, fantastic artist. We love him lots. We love Quack Quack Honk. We love Travis and To Improve Your Day.
Shrine of everything.
So yeah, always, if you guys have any questions about LARPing, conventions, just random geek stuff in general, reach out to us, ask us. We will
find us in our Discord. You can find us in our Discord for Grey Muzzle Geekery. You could email us at graymuzzlegeek@gmail or graymuzzlegeekery@gmail.com. You can send us messages on Twitter at graymuzzlegeek, Twitch, and actually we have YouTube as well. I do read all that stuff on YouTube, and this show will eventually go on YouTube as well, probably on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, something like that. And yeah, we're all about kind of maintaining a level of, I guess, community building, because I'm realizing and seeing as small-time podcasters, small-time YouTubers. I mean, we're small. We definitely have under triple-digit listeners. Wink, wink. We're actually probably at the end of this episode, we'll actually be at 4,000 downloads. So 4,000 unique downloads is pretty freaking cool.
For 50 episodes.
So you can do the math on that. But it's still a good.
We're growing.
We're growing. We're
getting
getting more Patreon supporters. We're getting people to kind of talk to us. We're getting more listeners. We're getting more support. It's weird, because there's still a level of, there's a point where you still have to beg for attention, and then once you get big enough, you're just like, hey, we're doing our thing. The difference is we're kind of in we're gonna do our thing anyway. So hey, so be it. Anyway, much love, anyone. Yeah, I'm gonna head off as well. I've got some drinking to do, and yeah.
Happy Sunday, guys.
Happy Sunday. Y'all take care and
take care of this week for sure. And happy May 4th. May the 4th be with you.
And also with you. Damn it! Revenge of the 5th! Thank you for listening to another episode of Grey Muzzle Geekery with Dusty Red and Dusty White.
You can support our continued geekery at our Patreon website, patreon.com/graymuzzlegeekery. Be sure to check back often as we start to add geek cred levels.
You can send your questions and comments to us at graymuzzlegeekery@gmail.com or find us on Twitter at graymuzzlegeek.
We can be found on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and Buzzsprout.
And a special thank you to Pepper Coyote for our intro theme. And if you like what you heard, you can find more of his stuff on Spotify, Patreon, or directly from his Bandcamp page.